Grand Theft Auto 6 to cost $150 on release. Now, hold on a second. I know. That sounds mildly ridiculous, and it is, but, couple of things. First and foremost, if there is any video game that could possibly demand such a ludicrous price right out of the gate on launch day, be honest with yourself, it probably would be Grand Theft Auto 6, seeing as it is the successor to, I'm pretty sure, the single biggest selling video game in human history, to the point that Rockstar Studios has been able to pretty much skate on its sales and its various expansions, microtransactions, yabba for the last decade, literally, as I believe it came out in 2013. It has been a resounding success of ridiculous proportions, and its primary audience is, well, normies, honestly. People who aren't necessarily all that much into gaming culture. People that don't keep up with the gaming news, the controversies, the evolving nonsense around its, well, history, its culture, its evolution, its happenings and goings-ons. When they see Grand Theft Auto 6 being launched, they'll probably just buy it on reflex. Only realizing when they reach the counter, or the digital checkout point more correctly in this day and age, that, wow, that's a bit more than I'd anticipated. But then again, I did put 10 years into the predecessor, so here's my money. Also, this is a bit of an older rumor, and this primary source is, well, my arse, almost as much as anything else. Old leaks, essentially, from 2 or 3 months ago or so. Yet I am going to use this as a cynical excuse to discuss the idea of a $150 video game, because this popped up in the news again recently, along with new leaks that, well, appeared blatantly fake to my ears at least, but we'll see. They alleged, incidentally, that the game will be officially announced / shown off sometimes in the next month or so, with an official release next year. Now, the official release next year I could sorta kinda see, and so a debut might not be that far off, but we'll have to wait and see, I suppose. Now, the idea of a $150 video game. So, this might not be the cost of the base game, mind you. It could be some sort of collector's edition. Remember Fallout 76? That one came with a $200 collector's edition, which didn't even have all of the stuff in it that was promised, causing quite a bit of outrage. So ludicrously expensive, special versions of games is hardly a rarity, and I would not be surprised that if English is difficult, if Grand Theft Auto 6 was released with some insane collector's edition with, I don't know, an actual car attached to it or something for $15,000, God only knows. But $150, right? Ludicrous price, right? Especially now with skyrocketing inflation and the money being worth less than ever and money being more and more difficult to get a hold of. Well, that might also be one of the reasons. As the company sees the value of money decrease along with the difficulty of actually obtaining money increasing, they might think, okay, we've got Grand Theft Auto, a game that will sell pretty much whatever, whenever, and we can pretty much demand the price because people are going to buy it regardless. This will be a bit of a ballsy move, but they wouldn't even be the first to try it. Hell, Starfield, for example, which I do believe comes out officially, quote unquote, today or on the 6th, well, I played it. It's not very good. It's boring. It doesn't look very good. It doesn't play very good. The graphics, the gunplay, the stories, it's not a very good Bethesda game, and yet I guarantee you it's already sold like mad due to the $100 pre-order, which I was dumb enough to buy, of course. Well, I do have an excuse in that I am one of those les streamers, which is also going to be the ones that'll be buy any priced Grand Theft Auto release. I pretty much guarantee you, even if they launch this at $300-400, well, people like me are pretty much just going to have to suck it and do it. And in turn, if it's good, provide free advertisement for the company. And if it's ass, well, I get to attack it early, so that's a nice thing, I suppose. But with a title like this, the majority of the sales are going to be made before even a single solitary review is even out, because people will simply be desperate for the next Grand Theft Auto, right? And in that regard too, is $150 an unreasonable price in the modern day market? Now my answer might surprise you in that not necessarily. Because think about it here. Already we've got games worth that's a heavily implied word right there. We have games costing, that's far more accurate, way more than $150. If you want to pick up Total War Warhammer, for example, and get everything the game has to offer, oh lord, that's going to run you $300-400 at least. Whereas in yesteryears, you could pick up Medieval 2 Kingdoms Total War with with the base game for what, like 80? Like one of the largest expansion packs in history. I think it cost like $20-30 or something. It would be massive. But today, oh god, it's nothing. And Grand Theft Auto 5 is a game with more expansions and additives and DLCs and microtransactions to it than your average train simulator. And yet, is that necessarily a bad thing? Now, the bad thing about it, obviously, is the fact that if you normalize games costing $150, oh my, that has some obvious negatives to it, especially in an age where the actual quality of video games is decreasing rather than increasing, and the habit of releasing poorly polished products and then fixing it days later is also on the rise, where people are doing predatory things like, Starfield, sending out $100 early access version because they know people will play it because of the hype, and then hoping to avoid most of the backlash because they know that the majority of people who are going to end up buying Starfield, well, they don't watch me. They don't watch most streamers. If anything, they'll probably watch the people who got early access to it, and they were carefully vetted, let me assure you. But on the flip side here, Grand Theft Auto 5 has been going for, like I said, 10 years or something, and people have been playing it for 10 years. Now, personally, I bought it on launch, I'm pretty sure. I've never played it. I don't know even why I own it. I've owned it for years, and yet it's just like, it's never appealed to me for some reason. There's a mental barrier there. I just look at it and go, the majority of this content is in multiplayer, and the majority of that content will require me to whip out my credit card. Am I actually interested in that? Me personally, not really. But for a lot of people who've had a tremendous amount of fun with it, well, it might be. And if you spend $150 on a game you're going to play for 10 years, I'd be hard-pressed to argue that that wasn't worth it. No, the real damage here isn't the damage that the Grand Theft Auto could do if it were to charge $150, assuming, and this is a big assumption to make, that the game is good and will have an equivalent lifespan to GTA 5. And considering the various leaks we've seen with the whole gender diverse crew, etc., and brown, strong female protagonist, that might be less than likely. If it's good, then charging $150 for a 10-year video game, alright, I mean, hell, people are still paying for World of Warcraft subscriptions to this day, so fair enough. But what is more likely to happen is that these will be used as a tactic going forward. Well, companies will ask pretty damn ridiculous prices for things like early access, for example. I wouldn't be surprised if the $150 price was for, like, say, 6 days early access to Grand Theft Auto 6. For example, people would pay it because a lot of them have been waiting again for 10 years for the sequel. And by the time it becomes common knowledge that the game is ass, which, by the way, is going to take surprisingly long, because here's the thing. Once you have made it up in your mind that you are going to spend $150 or something, like assuming that's the base sale, right? Once you've made that up, you are invested. You've already invested $150 of your money into a decision you have made. You are naturally, as a human being, programmed to then want to justify and defend that decision because you don't want to feel like a sucker who got taken for a ride, like I felt after Starfield, for example. and so you will feel an urge to defend your investment. You are going to deny anything negative you see, and you're going to try and hype up the positive things you see. And this isn't even being a shill, this is literally the natural human reaction to having invested that much time, that much effort, and in turn that much more money into a game. We've seen this in the console wars, for example, as a well-known phenomenon within gaming. And when you do that with a game this expensive, and in a franchise this established, even if the game is garbage, so long as it is at least passable, I suspect that the majority of people who play it will actually like it quite a bit to begin with, and then slowly but surely start to see the cracks. We saw this, for example, with the Cyberpunk 2077. A lot of people had extreme expectations for that game, and they defended vehemently against any suggestion of critique up until launch. Now, in large parts, that was because a lot of the critique came from a very wokeist perspective, which meant a lot of people would defend it inherently. Myself, I'm partially guilty of that as well. And then people played it, and they let it sink in a bit, and they were like, oh, well, this isn't that good, and now it's become very popular to hate on Cyberpunk 2077. Personally, I don't think it's actually that bad of a game. It certainly has a hell of a lot more to offer than Starfield, in my opinion. It's got some issues, absolutely. Does it live up to the enormous hype? God, no. But was it a bad video game? A terrible video game? Nah, not really. It was satisfactory for what it was. Not a glowing example, and even a little bit above satisfactory now that it's gotten some patches and added some fixes over the years. Now, bearing in mind, I didn't have the computer problems that a lot of people had, or even not being able to make it run at all on console, so, pinch of salt and all that. But could a company, this is probably the more important question, could a company like Rockstar get away with $150? I think, yeah. I actually think so. I hope not. I genuinely hope that this would cause a bit of a consumer revolt, honestly, with a genuine backlash and a boycott. That's what I would hope. Is it what I believe? Call me a wizened old cynic, but honestly, not really. I mean, seeing people defend Starfield without most of them even having played it yet, and having seen the Cyberpunk 2077 thing, having been in gaming for quite some time, I think that this could be a real possibility. And it's not a good one. Because we're laboring under the assumption here that Rockstar will actually make a good game, which, to be fair, considering their previous catalog, is a reasonable assumption. They are probably relatively likely to make a good Grand Theft Auto 6. But is everybody else likely to do that? Is Bethesda? A year ago I would have said yes, probably. Now, not so sure. Are all of the other companies? Is Activision Blizzard? No. A lot of the old great, like you just can't trust the old greats anymore because they're not greats any longer. And with the increasing cynicism and again the need to earn a quick buck fast with the decline of investor money, I suspect that if Grand Theft Auto does get away with something like this, it will encourage a lot of other companies to try and trade in their positive reputation for a quick buck now, hoping to recuperate it later. Hell, it's a strategy that Creative Assembly have employed again and again and again and again so far, where they've been releasing blatantly broken games like Rome 2, for example, which they knew was busted, obviously, and then go like, oh, we didn't know, what, cut content? Oh, that? Oh, we must have missed the Beasts of War DLC and all of the hubbub. And then they'll follow it up with some good PR. They'll give you a trinket here and there, and they'll make the next game fairly good, and you'll be like, oh, well, everything's forgiven. And then they'll punch you in the dick again. And so it goes, trading in on good faith, building it up a little bit again at a far cheaper cost, usually even charging you to do so in the case of DLC, etc., and then giving you another blow to the testicles. If other companies begin to master this tactic as well, well, you think video gaming is in a bad spot today? Oh boy. But yeah. So $150 video games. I hope you excuse me the slight bait and switch there, as that's a good clickbaity title, isn't it? And it is an interesting topic, at least I feel so. That'll be my defense, so please do let me know what you think in the comment section down below. And as always, of course, I've been Arch. Thank you all very much for watching, and I do hope to see you all again soon. Till then, have a good day.